Championship. You can see here track temperature 31 degrees, air temperature though only 21, Andre, a little bit cooler than we had here yesterday.
Yeah, exactly, a little bit cooler, but I don't think it will make a big difference to yesterday. Maybe you will see some teams trying different tire warming approaches for qualifying, which they will try to simulate at the end of the session. But yeah, like in qualifying yesterday, was most of the drivers were doing an out build push. Now with colder temperatures, maybe they will try something different because it's crucial to get that right for your optimal lap.
We can see the calendar here. This is the first of our double headers of the season here in Saudi Arabia. Dennis won it yesterday. Verlaine won the opening race of the season in Mexico. We go on to Brazil, into Tokyo, then we head into the likes of Germany, in Monaco, into Italy as well. Look at this.
Photo bombing.
That's Nick Cassidy in the background of Jake Dennis. This is a man who would have had a bit more of an expectation from yesterday. Pascal Verlaine finished 8th at the checkered flag. On the other side of the coin, Jean-Eric Vergne with his first podium of the season for DS Penske, and actually their first podium since Berlin back in 2023. Also a good race for this man here, Sam Bird as well, Andre. He made some really stonking progress up the field. This Diriyah E-Prix circuit though is a real driver favourite. We saw trains of cars effectively during the race running nose to tail with one another. Talk us through the unique challenges of this 2.5 kilometre track.
Yeah, it's a big challenge driving alone already, but then in the pack it's even more. So turn 1 until turn 14, it's non-stop going left, right, up, down, and yeah, speeding up through 8 and 9, and then even more to 11, then braking again for that last section there. Then you accelerate again towards 16, which is a lap time sensitive track, corner that goes onto the main straight. And yeah, overtaking opportunity there in 18, and then try to hit the brakes right and over the line in after the 21. But yeah, it's amazing track and very fun to drive.
Yeah, very much looking forward to seeing the drivers tackle it once again here in Saudi Arabia. You can see the sunshine is out. It's just before 1 p.m. local time here, so it's probably about the hottest it's going to be all day at this particular point. 21.5 degrees, as I said, significantly cooler than we had at this time here yesterday. So obviously the drivers have had a round here. We've had a race here. We know what the sort of form book was yesterday. Does that necessarily mean it's going to translate into the same thing here today?
Not really. I think it's going to be tougher to do well because if you had a little advantage yesterday, you had it, you know, and the other ones that were not that well sorted, they will be closer to the ones that were sorted. So I think the gaps will be smaller, and it will be a tougher business today.
Yeah, this is Sam Bird in the Neon McLaren garage. Really impressive drive from him yesterday. Managed to take advantage of the mistake that Evans made on the final lap. Got himself up into 4th place at the checkered flag, and that was a really impressive performance from Bird, especially considering the fact that where he lined up on the grid was 9th position. There wasn't a massive amount of forward progress in the race for a lot of drivers.
No, it was difficult to overtake. I think the dynamic from I think around P8, P9 was a lot of defending in turn 18, so meaning that the drivers were saving a little bit of energy through the 1st and 2nd sector where you cannot overtake, and then staying flat out in the braking zone for 18, and that makes the overtaking very difficult. It's a bit different at the front. I think in the first 5-6 positions they need to respect a bit their energy profile, meaning lifting and coasting to hit their targets. So that's why you also saw Mitch Evans having an opportunity to overtake, which worked really nicely once, but then he got a little overconfident, but at least he tried, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Drivers now making their way out onto the circuit for free practice free. On board we ride here with the winner from yesterday, Jake Dennis. Special helmet here for this weekend. Normally you can often find that these helmet designs can bring drivers a bit of bad luck, but quite the opposite for Jake. Managed to open his checkbook, Team Radio.
Track's not too bad. It's almost got a bit of a layer of dust, but it's much better than yesterday.
Yeah, giving feedback to the team about track conditions, so that is really important to see a bit the track evolution. So I think we're going to see faster lap times, of course, today after the cars laying down some rubber throughout the whole race yesterday. Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because if we look at the times that we were setting this time here last year, we're in the 109s, 110s. In qualifying, the fastest lap that we had was a 1:12.062, which of course was eventually set by the pole setter Jean-Eric Vergne. We saw consistent track evolution over the course of that qualifying session today, and there's no reason why that's not set to continue here today.
No, let's see if we can get lap times like last year in the 110s. That would be interesting. Also, the dynamic is a bit different today. There's 1 lap less for the race, so the energy targets are different. But I think today in this free practice session, they will all focus on qualifying performance because they have good data from yesterday. Even though it's a lap less, I think they will more focus on the pure performance.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because yesterday was a pretty flat-out race by all accounts. We saw drivers, John-Eric Vergne notwithstanding, having a fair amount of energy actually left over from the course of the race, at 3 or 4% of the checkered flag. Given the race was flat out, we should be expecting much the same today, given that we're running 2.5 kilometers less distance.
Yeah, like I said before, it was not flat out for the guys at the front. So you saw that, you know, Jake spent quite a bit of energy to do the overcut and get to the front, and then he had to manage. That's why the pack came back. And then they were fighting too and trying to attack and burning as well. And then they were kind of even, and that's how you saw Jake getting a big gap, still managing the energy. But I think, yeah, today it will be less energy management. So you will see drivers push more and will be even taking more risk to overtake.
Our driver's now just clearing the circuit, as Jake Dennis said on team radio a few moments ago, a bit of a layer of dust on the circuit overnight to be expected here in Saudi Arabia. This is Robin Freins. Envision having a really tricky weekend at the office. Considering the factory Jaguar team were fighting for the podium with Cassidy and Evans, we saw Freins finishing in 10th place, Sebastian Buemi down there though in 12th place, outside of the points. Considering though that he was on the podium just a fortnight ago, that's an incredible change in fortunes. Yeah,
it would be interesting to understand what happened there, because there's no real reason for it. They have 2 really good drivers, so maybe they got a little bit wrong in quali with how to use the tires. Then you know, you don't need much in FE to go wrong to compromise a weekend. So let's see if they can turn it around today. Of course, they have good data from the Jags, so it will be interesting.
So this is down into 18 and 19, where we saw Mitch Evans running a bit wide on a few occasions. We saw Nick Cassidy losing his front wing and a fair bit of drama at the start of the race. It's also where attack mode is activated. So for those who are new to Formula E, talk us through attack mode. How do you take it? How do you plan for it as a driver and as a team going into the race?
So before arriving at the racetrack, you already kind of simulate in the simulator how much would be the attack time loss when you go through it. It's mandatory to go twice over it, and then it unlocks for a certain amount of time. Yeah.
So next week, could outbuild push, cool down 350.
Yeah, the engineer here telling Jake, giving him some guidance what to do, meaning out building means warming up the tires and then going for a push, and cooling down again and going for another push, and then also simulating the qualifying power with the 350. But yeah, back to the attack mode. And then you try to lose the least amount of time. So there's some code messaging that you try to be only losing 1 place or 2 places, and it's a very strategic tool for the race. And as we saw yesterday, that's what was making the drivers gain or lose places.
Yeah, that's what we saw with Jaguar, wasn't it? The 2 drivers trying to work together. I think there was a bit of debacle on the team radio, shall I put it, for Mitch Evans. He was sort of saying, oh, you know, I'm not actually sure that this is the right strategy. He was putting it in a bit more of a fruitier way than that, actually, to be quite honest with you, because, you know, he and Nick Cassidy were exchanging positions, and Nick was saying, look, I'll give the position back if I can get ahead. And it's interesting how effectively they were expecting one of the drivers to play rear gunner at different points in the race.
Yeah, that's where you understand you're a professional racing driver working for a factory, and helping each other, it's key there. And you need the trust though, but they did it really well. They played it super smart, and they turned it to their advantage.
Yeah, it worked out okay. So just over 6 minutes gone of the session. Oliver Rowland currently fastest. Sacha Fenestraz in second. The 2 Nissans leading the way. 1:12.5s for them. Team radio for Rowland here.
P1 for the moment. Main loss is 16.
So yeah, turn 16, like I said before, a very lap time sensitive corner because it's a very long one. And it is a tricky approach there because you would like to have a bit of a wider entry and take a better exit, but no one takes that line, so it's dusty there. So you really have to tuck on the inside and carry speed, but still also have a good exit. To do both together, not easy.
Yeah, absolutely right. So just looking at the drivers circulating around, building up some tyre and brake temperature and building up their lap times and the confidence in the circuit as well. There's Norman Nato. He was fastest this time yesterday in free practice 2. Come the race, it would eventually be a 6th place finish for him, so points on the board for Andretti, but they'll be hoping for more podiums as the season goes on. That's very much the focus for the Andretti team, is to take the fight to Envision and the factory teams for the team's title this year.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely, it's always good to have 2 strong drivers scoring points. And I mean, there's the drivers' championship, which is very prestigious, but for the whole team, it's also very important to be up there.
Yeah, absolutely right. So Jean-Eric Vergne just popping himself up quickest of the lot. Bit of a traffic jam emerging as they come through the first sector. It's an incredible run actually from turn 4 all the way down to 14. You're never really straight with the steering wheel, so it's incredible how the drivers are jostling their way through, especially in qualifying conditions. We saw drivers just getting so close and flirting with the limits and correcting the car consistently over the course of the lap. Just amazing car control. So just over 20 minutes to go in this session. Let's throw down for the first time to Saunders, who's in the pit lane. Saunders, what have you found for us?
I found Roger Griffiths here to talk about today. Yesterday was an incredible win from Jake Dennis, one of the biggest margins of win we've ever seen in Formula E. But consistency is the hardest thing to achieve in Formula E. How are you going to do it?
Well, I think the main thing is not to do anything different. You know, obviously one less practice session today, but judging by the times, Jake's woken up and he's still pretty fast, so he hasn't forgotten how to drive overnight. So it's really just about sticking to the plan. We made a couple of minor changes overnight. I think basically the car was pretty good. So it's just really reading the track conditions, anticipating a little bit of a cooler ambient, but just business as usual for us.
With one lap less today, grid position even more important than it was yesterday, how are you going to nail qualifying?
Well, I mean, that's really in Jake's hands. I mean, we'll give him the best car we can. We'll give him the best opportunities in terms of track position. Obviously, focus is getting through the group stages and into the duels. Once we're in the duels, as you know, we start no worse than 8. But we've got to be looking at, 2 things. One, getting as far forward as we can, and then secondly, trying to be on the clean side of the racetrack so we can get a good launch. I think if we look at yesterday's race, our launch wasn't great. We need to improve there, but if we can get him up near the front for the start, then we've got as good a shot as yesterday. But as you say, one lap less, it's going to be a little bit harder to overtake. The pace will probably be a little bit higher than yesterday. Track is gripping up as well, so all of those factors just make overtaking just a little bit harder than it was yesterday.
What's the word from the drivers so far in this session? Is it driving the same way as it did yesterday in terms of the dust and the grip?
Yeah, I think overnight, I mean, with all the construction going on around us, there's a fine layer of dust on the track, but I think that's quickly dissipating, and we're already way ahead of yesterday's qualifying time. So, yeah, there's a lot of grip out there, or grip to be found at least, compared to yesterday. So, anticipating qualifying being a fair bit faster than it was yesterday. So, just got to keep trying.
Well, the podium was great yesterday. It's going to be even bigger today. Backstreet Boys are in the house. I'm sure Jake Dennis is very excited about that. I'd like to see a good race. I certainly want it that way. Do you?
Yeah, I think they're no longer Backstreet Boys, aren't they? Backstreet older gentlemen or something like that. But yeah, I mean, we're just looking for a good win. I mean, a good result. If we can win, that would be great. The unfortunate thing about winning the first race of a doubleheader is you only get to celebrate for a few hours, and then you're on to the next one. So it'd be nice if we can have a strong result this afternoon, this evening, and then enjoy that for a little bit longer all the way to Sao Paulo.
Game on. Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Saunders. Thanks to Roger Griffiths as well. As you said, Backstreet Boys are in the house here tonight. We had One Republic last night as well. It's been a great weekend of entertainment here, both on and off the circuit in Saudi Arabia. It's an interesting point that he made there, actually, about the track gripping up. Lap times are already faster than we saw in the race yesterday. Exactly,
yeah. An 11.3 for Jean-Eric Vergne. That's obviously second faster than yesterday's qualifying lap time, and we will see the lap times even go faster. So I reckon in the 110s, and it will be also interesting to see who it suits better with different car setups from different teams.
Yeah, that's Dan Tickton just exploring the limits of turn 18. Easily done. Manages to gather it up without too many problems and emerge back onto the circuit. Just, running a bit
It's weird because it didn't look that he was on the limit either. So interesting. Maybe some system problems.
Pretty happy with the car actually, with the braking and all this stuff. Like, it's pretty cool.
Good to hear the team radio there, Fredo Mortara, expressing some positivity about the balance of the car. I think it can't be overstated just how important it is to have confidence in the machine that's underneath you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing is the mechanical setup of the car, but the other thing is the software, you know, because of the electric motors. You're braking with on your brake pole, and there's a request, of course, in negative torque in the motors, but you can set them up with the software for each corner, and also between the front axle and the rear axle. It changes throughout the corner phase, and there's so many different ways of setting these things up, and sometimes it is a tool that really helps you, but sometimes it works against you if it's inconsistent.
Yeah, there's Nico Müller just going across the timing line, 9/10 of a second adrift for the Abt Cupra team. Interestingly, actually, Mahindra made some really good forward progress. Both drivers, Edo Mortara and Nick de Vries, they qualified in 20th and 22nd, respectively. Edo Mortara finishing the race in 15th, Nick de Vries in 17th. They were the drivers who actually made the greatest progression from where they started.
Just went to P1. Robin Frins with a good lap, 10.8. So we see, track evolution is big, and it's actually exponential. At the beginning, it's at a slower rate, and the more grip you find, the more they can push, and then the lap times really come down even faster.
Bit of a note from Sam Smith, journalist for the race, saying that Wehrlein was suffering from instability from sort of turn 5 to turn 10. That's why he seems to be struggling with the car. And given that there's such a confidence portion of the lap where you're going so fast through there, no surprise really that he's been struggling this weekend with lap time.
Yeah, you want to have a stable car, but of course you also don't want to have too much understeer, so when the car doesn't turn. So that's it's always important to have a good balance, and let's see what type of setup changes they found overnight to make the driver feel better and how they can turn this around.
There's been a few attack laps that have come in as well. And by attack laps, what I mean by that is normally the drivers have 300 kilowatts of power underneath their right foot going to the rear wheels. When they go into what's called attack mode, they get 350 kilowatts, so another 50 kilowatts of power. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it makes a huge difference to the dynamics of the car. Obviously, it gives them a bit more straight line speed, but it also means you have to adjust your driving style accordingly.
Yeah, it's a lot more power, actually. You really feel it in the car. Some tracks, it really gives you a big time advantage. Here, it is not that much of a game because, of course, the track conditions are not that well, so you're grip limited. So even if you have more power, for example, out of 16 or out of 14, it takes really long time to go full throttle. You will only get the gain when you're at full throttle. And sometimes you even think you prefer a bit less power because it's just a bit smoother and easier to drive, and you don't overdrive the tire, which is key for a performance, for a good performance with these cars.
Absolutely. Well, let's head down to Saunders with just under 15 minutes remaining. Saunders, whereabouts are you in the pit lane now?
I'm outside ERT with team boss Alex. Now, yesterday, Sergio Setticamera was just on fire. That's a very good result for the team.
Yeah, great qualify, get into the duels, P4. We managed to score P9 at the end. We knew the race is going to be a bit more difficult because before we got a new powertrain for next season, which is well under development. We knew this year we don't have much better hardware. So we focus in maximizing our one-lap pace, start as forward as possible. And yeah, I think Sergio did well in the last 10 laps for defending. In this track, it's more difficult for overtaking, so it works well a little bit for us. And Sergio did a great job in the last few laps, losing a toe and smart in using the energy to defend. So I think I'm happy for the first point scoring in the season.
Surely today, things are even more in your favour, because if Dan or Sergio can put in a great lap in qualifying, with the 1 lap less, there's less requirement for extreme energy management. You know, we saw drivers finishing with 2-3% left in the charge at the end of the race yesterday. That means that maybe positions are easier to hold?
Maybe, but I would expect it will be quite similar, because the grip of today, the second day, will increase, which means you will consume more energy, because you got more time that you can put the ball down. So I expect that may equalize a little bit, and it will be quite similar.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing what the team can do. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you very much indeed, Saunders, as well. It's interesting, ERT. Tale of two fortunes for them this weekend. Sergio set a camera, amazing qualifying, getting his first points on the board after a dismal Mexico. On the other side of it, Dan Ticktum finishing the race down in 21st place, and again, some 30 seconds off the nearest competitor.
Yeah, that was definitely a big difference between the two drivers, but let's see if Sergio can repeat it today, that it was not a fluke. But he's been very impressive sometimes in qualifying, but even Dan as well last year. So let's see if he can improve from yesterday.
Absolutely. So just over 12 minutes to go of the session. The two Envisions now currently quickest. Sebastian Buemi, 18 thousandths ahead of his teammate. 1 minute 10.849 for Buemi. So incredibly fast. Now the track is really beginning to ramp up and evolve as this session continues, and we'll be set to do so into qualifying this afternoon. Just see Dennis on a build lap here. He's just backed off ever so slightly, but you can see just how blind it is going through these sections of the lap. You can't see the next corner that's ahead of you.
No, it's a very difficult situation when you're actually on a cool down lap. Your engineer is of course monitoring where you're on track compared to the others and checking if the car behind is on a push lap and guiding you how close the other car is coming, and so you as a driver can get out of the way. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and there's a bit of friction there, and that's why you see, like yesterday, I think it was Da Costa and Roland having a bit of an argument on track.
Just by the way, if you're wondering what the pink flashes on the names are on the tower graphic on the left-hand side of your screen, that means drivers are on attack lap, so that means they've got full power available, and that's where we should see them starting to improve, as Jehan Daruvla has done exactly that. Goes 4th quickest in the Maserati. The only rookie in the field. Karun Chandok called up with him earlier on this weekend. It's a challenging sport to adapt to, though, Formula E, especially if you've been driving high downforce F2 cars.
Oh my God, yes, and I think that's the highest he's ever been in an session so far. So that's for sure motivating. But yeah, I remember the first time I drove a Formula E car, and it's not easy to adapt. And plus, on top of that, it's not like you can go with your team and test as much as you want. It just really have to build up step by step, and on a track like this, you can't over push it, because you're going to be in the wall, and then you're going to lose even more track time. So it's really a difficult championship to get up to speed with.
So we're now getting into sort of the final 10 minutes of this free practice session here, Andre. What are the drivers and teams now going to be focusing on in these last stages? Because this is the last time they're out on track before quali.
Yeah, exactly. So full qualifying focus, because they have the experience from yesterday with the energy lap. So yeah, they will simulate the 300 kilowatt laps to make sure they can get into the duels. And the ones that are a bit more confident, they will try the 350 kilowatt. But priority is to get into the duels, and that's in 300 kilowatt. So yeah, they will try to find out what's the best way to switch the tires on, see what they modified from yesterday with the car setup, a bit of settings, and yeah, get confident and good rhythm. Here, this track is all about rhythm. You know, if you do things right and you build it up, a bit more confidence, then it really helps a lot.
What about John Verne here? You can see him just, again, threading the eye of a needle. This is just how incredible this first sector of the lap is. Just talk us through what it's like when you're sitting there, your backside in the driver's seat going through this part of the lap.
It's so cool.
Hughes cooling, pushing, sorry, T18. Let's try to keep the position. Keep the position on Hughes. So we stay in front of him.
Yeah, that's what I was...
Push 350 FP1 mode.
That's what I was saying, is it's out of sync here because that's his push lap, but the radio is probably from the lap before, where he's making a gap and a cool down lap, trying to stay ahead of the other car so he doesn't get impeded for that push lap we're seeing now. Yeah, the track is so cool, you know, you brake in turn 1 and then it's just like, it's really enjoyable to go through these S's. You try to be as close as possible to the walls. And then, yeah, just enjoy the ride. It's there's no track like it that gives you that much adrenaline in Formula E.
Yeah, it's really impressive from Jean-Eric Vergne as he makes his way through turn 21. The 90-degree right-hander aims for the timeline, goes fastest as well. A 1:10.362 for the Frenchman. The pole sitter from round 2 yesterday. Can he repeat that same feat though here this afternoon? We'll wait and find out as we head into quali. Jake Dennis, the winner from race 1 of round 2 here yesterday. Now on a push lap. Bit of traffic for him though here as he's just encountering this, coming onto the back straight.
Yeah, not ideal, but I think he didn't lose too much, but he had a really nice drift there before between 8 and 9. That's it's really courageous to play with the car on the limit there, because I mean, there's a crest, you know, it goes. So when you drive over the crest into an 8, the car becomes really light. And if you drift over there, it's at some point you think you're going to lose the car, but that's what it needs and what it takes to do a fast lap time.
Saunders, we've seen Porsche struggling this weekend. Verline and Da Costa not having particularly brilliant races, and indeed in terms of qualifying as well. Have you got any insight into why they've been struggling so much here in Saudi?
I mean, tell me about it, Tom. I'm just sitting here in the Porsche garage. I think they're about to do a tyre change. I'm scratching my head, just thinking, where has this drop of performance come from? You know, we're talking about Antonio Felix da Costa, the driver that won the first ever race here, and now, of course, Pascal Wehrlein winning both races last season here. And yet, yesterday, P8 and P16 was the best they could achieve. And now, you know, we're currently running P17 and P22 in this free practice 3 session. So I don't know if it's a setup problem or if it's a pace problem. It certainly shouldn't be an energy management problem. But you, Andre, perhaps you can tell me why. But I don't understand what's going on here. I'm now thinking, how is it going to be possible today to see Pascal back on a podium like he did so easily last season? Or Tom, you're going to hate this one. Are we going to see Dak Street back? I don't know. You tell me.
That's a pound in the jar right there.
Right. This is where I have to be really careful in what I say, because I'm still employed by Porsche. But I think from what I heard, the drivers complain a bit by rear stability. So let's see if they improve that. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see the differences in setup that is there between Andretti and the Porsche team. There are different philosophies, and see how they analyze that. I mean, for sure, they looked at what happened yesterday and learned from that. But it's not the end of the session yet, so I'm sure they're going to bounce back. Two good drivers, and you know, we know Pascal can do it here, but also Antonio. So, but yeah, you need everything to go well, and sometimes it's just, yeah, it doesn't take much, you know.
No, exactly. Da Costa about 1.1 seconds off the quickest lap time set by Jean-Eric Vergne at the moment. Wehrlein, a bit better off for him, just 9/10 of a second away. But in Formula E terms, I mean, that's about a fortnight in terms of a gap, really.
Yeah, and especially second day, like I said before, everyone is going to be closer together because drivers are more confident. You know, sometimes you're on a good day and another one on a bad day, but you learn from that, and yeah, you see how it is hard to modulate the traction. You know, compared to the Gen 2, it takes a lot longer to go full throttle. You modulate it for so long, and you play with the limit of the traction for so long, and then if you look at the onboards, most of the teams they have the LED lights on top of the steering, and that's an indication when they blink for how much slip there's there, and then that's also a tool for you to know that, okay, it's not time yet to go full throttle, on top of what you feel from the car.
I had a bit of a whisper going around about Antonio's struggles at the start of this season, and indeed for last season as well. The Hankook tyres he seems to be having a bit of difficulty to adapting to. He's been racing the same ones in DTM and didn't have a particularly brilliant 2023 there either. Is there any sort of weight in that at all?
Yeah, it can be. You know, it's a completely different game than the Michelin tyre, and I would say that on the Michelin tyre is a lot more instinctive. You know, you can just go with your talent and figure it out in the corner. But a Hankook tire is requiring a lot more of a technical driving style, and the grip window is a lot smaller, meaning that, you know, if you attack the corner and freestyle it a bit and think, okay, I will catch the grip there, and it doesn't always work, and the margin for error is just so small, and then it becomes a lot harder to put the lap together than with another tire. So some drivers' driving style fit this tire better, and then that's where you really need to sit down and work hard, because it's not natural for some, but you still can analyze the data and compare yourself to a teammate, and you can really look at everything. But then to do it on track is another thing.
Driver's eye view here from Robin Freitz, currently 8th quickest, the fastest between the two in visions. A few attack laps coming in right towards the end of this session, which is exactly what Robin Freitz is on. So he's making his way here down this back straight in towards turn 18 and 19. See if you can spot the braking point. Okay, bit of instability on the rear, and runs it a bit too hot actually into there, off the onto the apron on the outside, and unfortunately that's the attack lap gone.
See, these are the LED lights that I just mentioned. Here you will see going on power, and then they go on and managing the traction. But that's what FP is for, you know, finding the limits, especially in turn 18.
Really struggling with the rear man after one lap.
Yeah, so when the tires are a bit too hot, then the performance goes down. And here on a track like this, you know, you slide a lot, and the second and especially the third sector, you start to lose performance. It's tricky because the first sector you need the fronts to work, and then in the last sector you need the rears to be there. So to bring that evenly together, it's not so easy.
Sof Van Dorn under investigation. Just had a notice come up on the timing screen for speeding in the pit lane as well. So see whether that comes to anything. Likely to just be a fine, I would have thought. Also a brief yellow flag down at turn 17 that's now just cleared, so seemingly all okay there. I wonder if we can piece together what happened here for Robin Freitz. This is down into 18. We saw it a few moments ago. Talk us through it, Andre.
Yeah, so you have your marks, and then every lap you go, you try to find a new limit, and that was a bit too much for him. And luckily there's runoff area there, and he almost made it, but yeah, just lost the rear. That's what he also complained about on the radio.
Yeah, just overcooking it ever so slightly. I suppose that's what practice is for. Better now in practice than getting to the duels and making a Horlicks of it.
Yeah, that's the fine line, you know. In practice it's cool. You can try, and there's no penalty. But then when it comes to show qualifying, you can't afford that, and sometimes it's annoying because you play it safe, and then it's good to do the lap, but you leave some time on the table, so that's not ideal. Then yeah, that's an art.
Buemi's a man on the move here at the moment. He's on an attack lap as well. You can see that with the pink flashes on his name on the tower graphic. Personal best in the first sector, personal best in the second sector. If he can hook this one up, he could be set to go to the top of the order as the session is getting ready to reach its conclusion. He won't get another lap, but he's getting quite close there to the back of Pascal Wehrlein. Won't be too much of a bother. What does it do for Buemi as he comes to the timing line and cruise, and then he goes 8th fastest, backs off in that final sector there.
Yeah, let's see who can set good lap times and who will have also cooler tires. You know, it depends a bit on the run plan, because some guys will have hot tires, and that is less performance at the end of the session. And some guys had another set that was a bit cooler, and we'll see, I think, a lot of lap time improvement now.
Yeah, Ollie Rowland just improving his time up to 4th quickest at the checkered flag. Van Dorn crosses the line and stays P6.
300.
Yeah, I got again misled on the braking in the last corner. Okay. I mean,
yeah, Buemi not happy there clearly about the end of that attack lap as Evans crosses the line. Quickest, a 1:10.1 for the Kiwi then. Good start to round 3 for him. And let's see whether he can bring the fight to pole position at the end of this one. What about Pascal Wehrlein? Is he going to be able to improve on 14th? No, he is not. Not a good session once again for the Tag Heuer Porsche team. 14th for Wehrlein, 22nd for Antonio Felix da Costa. Jean-Eric Vergne does cross the line, stays second fastest. So FP3 is led by Jaguar TCS Racing and Mitch Evans, trying to go one better than they did in qualifying here yesterday and get themselves in that fight for pole position, starting the day off on the right foot.
Yeah, we see the top 2 guys, same as in the duels, just the other in the finals, just the other way around. So they're on top form today as well. Dennis is also on good form in P5, so if he can qualify around there, or he still has a good chance to...
Man, the car is a disaster through turn 19. It is Tokyo drift. I don't know what is wrong with it.
Pretty frank feedback there from Jake about the car's balance. He and Sean McGill, this is his race engineer that you can see on your screen at the moment. I'm sure we'll be having a fairly extensive debrief after this session to try and improve the balance of it going into quali.
Yeah, turn 19 is the left-hander after 18, which is a bit of a tighter corner, but I think the acceleration out of there into the last corner with the hot tires at the end of the lap, having had all the stress from the driver pushing throughout the whole lap, makes it difficult. The grip just drops, and it's a surface temperature that is stressed, and then just less grip.
Absolutely. Well, this is the onboard start procedure then here for Max Günther. Talk us through it, Andre.
Yeah, so you go into your start procedure. Most of the teams press the brake, and then you activate your start mode with a paddle. You come off the brake, you're on full throttle, and when the lights go off, you just dump the paddle, and then the car just goes starts on its own. I guess some teams do partial throttle, some teams do full throttle. There is traction control, but not enough for you to rely fully on it. There's a small amount of power where you can control it, and yeah, it's a good way to scan a bit the grip. There's also a big difference between outside and inside, so it's better to be on the left side, of course.
Yeah, we saw the dust on the inside of the circuit when Mitch Evans was trying to make his overtaking moves down towards the first corner, and just how tricky it was offline. Some drivers actually likening it to being a bit of a wet track almost, but on a dry track, if that makes sense. The fact that it was so dusty offline that there's just no grip unless you're on the optimal racing line.
Yeah, I think that part of the track is actually all right. When I went on the track, that was a bit less dusty. It looks like it's a bit of a new asphalt there, so it's not as dramatic as the other bits. And of course, you want the least amount of wheel spin as possible, but still a certain little percentage.
So Mitch Evans ends free practice 3 fastest here for Jaguar TCS Racing. The reverse of what we had in qualifying yesterday. Will we see the same order come the duels this afternoon? Jiv finishes in second place ahead of Max Günther. Another strong showing for him in the Maserati. Good throwing also for Oliver Rowland in the Nissan. He heads Britain Jake Dennis. Stoffel van Dorn 6th fastest ahead of Nick Cassidy and Sasha Fenestraz. Then you've got the 2 Envisions of Buemi and Robin Freitz. Just outside of the top 10 is Hughes, Nato, Darubala, Pascal Wehrlein down in 14th ahead of the 2 Mahindras of Mortara and De Vries. Dan Ticktum leads teammate Sergio Sette Camara. Then you've got Lucas de Grassi, Sandberg down there in 20th, Nico Muller and Antonio Felix da Costa, the former champion, down there in 22nd place. Lot of work to do for Tag Heuer Porsche here this afternoon to try and right the wrongs, really, after what has been a difficult weekend, to put it mildly, for the German outfits. And on the other side of the coin, a delightful weekend for this man here, Mitch Evans. Very unlucky to miss out on a podium here yesterday afternoon in the race, but starting off round 3 on the right foot.
Yeah, but sometimes, you know, that makes the difference between you know, success and failure. There was a bit in between, but it's just what it takes sometimes to get to the front, take some risk, and yeah, hats off to him for trying that.
Just looking here at Max Günther, 3rd quickest for him in the Maserati. A lot of, what's the word I would call it, disruption in Maserati over the off-season. A lot of personnel leaving, having to sort of reorganise the structure within inside that team, and there was a bit of concern as to whether that was going to affect the performance of the outfit on track, but seemingly Max Günther just getting on with the job at hand.
Yeah, that's your duty as a driver, to isolate yourself from all these issues and stay focused and do your part of the job and do things that are in your control, and then trust that the rest will follow. And I think also good improvement from his teammate, the Ruvela, getting into the middle of the field there as a rookie.
Oliver Rowland, 4th quickest for the Nissan driver. Very unlucky to miss out on points here yesterday afternoon after strong showings in the practice sessions. Norman Nato, this is on the other side of the Andretti garage. He was fastest over free practice 2 here yesterday. Ends up outside of the top 10 in 12th position at the end of FP3.
Yeah, you go straight to your engineer, and then he tells you, look, in this sector and that sector you're good, and in that sector not, and then you look what is your ultimate lap time. But that's the same game for everyone, you know. Everyone had a little mistake here and there, and then yeah, it goes straight to the meetings and everything on the intercom, so everyone can hear it. There's even people back home listening to what's going on throughout the network in they call it in the ups room, so you can have a bit more support from people that are not on site.
Well, here are some highlights then from free practice 3. You saw the session get underway. Relatively incident-free session, that one. Whilst we look at some highlights, let's head down to Saunders, who's in the pit lane. So,
Mitch Evans, I've been telling people all morning that there are few drivers capable of a bigger bounce back than yourself after moments of frustration like you had yesterday. I think you've done the great thing today by starting that off very well.
Yeah, look, it's only practice. If it was qualifying, I'd be happier, let's say, or kind of ease the pain slightly from yesterday. But yeah, it's only practice. But actually, it was a tricky session, I think, for everyone. The track condition is been really odd since we got here. Very slippery, very slick, the surface. So very hard to get the car in a sort of comfortable window. And I literally had one lap where I actually felt comfortable, and that was my fastest lap. So it just makes it concerning for the for qualifying, because you need to really nail it, and you really only get one proper shot in the group. So yeah, it all looks good on paper, but there's still a lot that we need to do to make sure we advance through and qualify, at the front like we did yesterday.
I mean, qualifying today, even more crucial than yesterday. I can't be the only one, I can't be original in that thought, but how are you going to do what you did yesterday? Because the package is strong enough to do it, but it's like 8 pole laps in a row pretty much, isn't it, the Jules?
Yeah, to get pole, yes. Thing is, today, the pack would have tightened up. Everyone's getting, everyone just gets better, right? But yeah, it's tricky. There's a lot of variables that need to come together to put good laps together, and the performance, tire windows, systems, traffic. There's so many things that can go against you or for you. So yeah, anyway, we'll hopefully get all the correct pieces together and like yesterday and advance through, but it's going to be really tight.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing the redemption story. Thanks, Mitch. Back to you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Saunders. Thanks to Mitch Evans, the fastest man from free practice 3. Really interesting session, that one there. It is Jaguar TCS Racing and Mitch Evans who end up quickest at the end of this one as we head into qualifying, taking place in just over an hour and a half time. Thank you so much for joining us, from Andre Lotterer and from myself, Tom Brooks. Thank you very much, and we will see you again for quali very soon.